This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.
What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to Let's Go Win. I am excited. This guest has got quite the background. Ron Worley II is an impactful business leader, strategic thinker, self-made millionaire, professional speaker, and avid life liver who follows his own code. His ability to lead, inspire, and guide systems of health and wellness are clear, and he wants to provide you with the tools to make your life better and more productive. He launched his career as a licensed bail agent 25 years ago and went on to open 11 other businesses, created 4 successful retail locations, and founded the Worley Way, a definition of bravery, trust, family, and freedom. Ron has ridden on the edge and lost everything along the way, from addiction and homelessness to arrests and heart failure. And he has asked all the wrong questions to find the right answers. Ron, you have definitely had a life, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, that introduction always, I'm like, who are they talking about, man? That's really cool.
You're not an old guy, man. So you've been busy in your youth. I mean, my God, 11 businesses, 25 years as a bail agent. I mean, where do we start with this story, man? That's pretty unique.
Yeah. So I started young, and that was because of my failures. I had to kind of take a different route than what I thought I was going to. To start it out, I started drugs and alcohol really early in my life. In fact, I was only 2 years old when I took my first hit of marijuana. And it was kind of part of our family. My family was a family of hippies and motorcycle, they were in Harley clubs and things like that. And so it was pretty rough, and it was just part of our life, growing up doing drugs and whatnot. And I tried to fit in there somehow. And but by the time I was in high school, I was a full-blown alcoholic drug addict, doing all the big drugs and drinking every weekend, every day if I could. And but I also tried to have a normal life in front of other people. So that's what helped me fit in with people, was drinking and partying. But then I also played football, and I was pretty good at that. And I wrestled, and I was really good at that. And ultimately, all that was taken away because of my drinking and drugging. And I was kicked out of college. And the reason I kind of got into bail bonds is because I was going to have a kid, and I wasn't in college. That whole plan, go to college, get a good job. I burned that up, and doesn't leave a lot of options. So I tried a whole bunch of jobs that I didn't like. And ultimately, it was actually my mother started her own bail bonds business, and she roped me in. And I actually worked side by side with her for 18 years, which, if you read my book, is a hell of a thing to do, because I blame her for a lot of my childhood and whatnot. So a lot of repair, a lot of health going on. Her and I have a great relationship now, and have for many years. But a lot of stuff to work through there when you work with your mom.
Yeah, I would imagine, man. I mean, just that short little snippet alone, marijuana at the age of 2, and then losing, like you said, your ability to go to college because of some of these behaviors you picked up or inherited along the way. I imagine there is. Congrats on the book, Ditches to Riches. That's a big thing. And I can only imagine, with kind of the intro I know of you, this has got to have some twists and turns, some peaks and valleys. And what led you to write the book, man?
Yeah. So I had the heart failure, and I looked at my life. I basically witnessed my own funeral at that moment. People were coming in to say goodbye. I was basically given a short period of time to live. And so people were kind of coming in, giving me their condolences and saying goodbye and whatnot. And I thought, man, I don't have anything to leave. Like, all people know about me is that I had heart failure in the middle of the courthouse one day. I had a good name in the community from running businesses and whatnot, but nobody really knows what it took to get to that point. And what I found is that people So one day I met this guy, Jim Hensel, and he tells me I need to work on getting some values in my life because I didn't have any. At that point, I just saw what I should be as a man, and it wasn't a very good example. And I was being an example to my children. And he said, "Hey, man, get your own values, put those together." I did that. And I blasted my story on our retail store on the website, just front page for everybody to read, all the way back to, everything. I put the whole thing out there. And all of a sudden, my life changed. People started relating. My customers started coming in by the handfuls because they related. We had longer lasting customers because they could relate to my story, and they started to listen to me a little bit more because I was being honest with them. And ultimately, that's something that needed to go on paper. I was watching, I was helping all these people, and I wanted to just help the masses and leave something for my children in case I didn't make it long enough to watch them grow into adults. I needed something that could speak to them in my death. And I'm still here. So, and they're all grown up, but now I'm finding out that there's a lot of people that need to hear not only my story, because the book is, it talks about my story, but it's the lessons I learned from the crap I went through. And that is what I'm trying to save people. I have 3 kids. One is going to college and about to graduate and doing really well. The other 2 chose not to. And I think that's awesome too. Um, they're happy and they have values, and that's what's important, man. And so I'm trying to take away that stigma that you have to go to college, spend $100,000 and come out of school in debt. You can, and I have a kid doing that, and it's great. But you don't need to. And in fact, my daughter left the house when she was 17 and was headed down a path much like mine. And now she's not. At 23 years old, she has 2 businesses and her own house, and she's kicking it and kicking butt and doing basically what I did. And I love it. It's great.
Yeah, there's clearly no blueprint to any of this. There's chapters of our lives. And what I want to talk about is you being so vulnerable. So Jim Hensel, I wrote down his name. He said, "Hey man, you need some values in your life." And you decide, I'm going to share my story completely vulnerable, completely naked to the world is kind of how I look at it. That has to take some serious, I don't know, man, stones to say, I'm just going to open up to the world like this because I think I can provide that kind of value. Tell me about that, brother, because that's pretty
Yeah.
unique to be able to do that. So from not doing that to immediately throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's scary for sure. And the reason I did it was because one of my values is trustworthiness, and it's part of the Worley way. And in order for people to trust me, I sort of had to open up and just be 100% honest and vulnerable to other people. And in being vulnerable to other people means you have to be able to take some negativity too. And that came too. I mean, I told you about the positive stuff, but there was a lot of negativity and people that separated themselves. And but what I found out was, another value, friendship. Those weren't real friends, and really my true friends are it's a very small group. Um, and I break that down, more in the book about what I think about friendships. But my ride or die friends, the ones that were really, really super close to me, they already knew the story. They lived it with me, a lot of them, and helped me when I was homeless and those kind of things. So I really didn't have a lot to lose other than our name in the community. People quickly forget, I made a mockery of the community back in, from 97 to 2003 before I got sober. And nobody remembered that in 2004 when I started, opening businesses again. And I thought that was cool. So I figured, what do I have to lose here? Let me tell my story. They'll forget about it if they didn't like it, and I'll move on from there. But, I think if everybody understands that through vulnerability comes trust, people would be more honest with each other. That's my personal opinion anyway.
Oh, I agree, man. I think it's an incredible attribute that you have to be able to be that vulnerable. It really is remarkable. Those ride or die friends that so they were with you when you weren't sober and you were acting a fool or whatever we want to say, and then it sounds like some of them have embraced your new lifestyle. Talk about that a little bit because that is interesting. When people have been with you at the lows of the lows, the highs of the highs, and all of the in between, that's obviously you talk about trust and you talk about family. I imagine those people are your family. Just tell me a little bit about that because it's pretty interesting to ride that roller coaster and have these people support you in every endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do. And you support them back too. That's the key thing here. I'll just use one friend, for example, the Sean helped me when I was homeless. He found me a place to sort of lay my head, another couch here and there. And we went to college together. And that's what I say about your ride or die friends. They're usually friends that you have to put in a lot of time with, and you have to go through adversity. And him and I both were kicked out of college for our various reasons. And, we were there for each other, and we were both kicked off of our paths he was supposed to be a doctor. And then that didn't happen. So, and when I was in a time of need, he was there. And when he was in a time of need, I was there for him. And I've had to pick him up and dust him off, but staying back to me. And when I had my heart failure, he was the first one to say, "Hey, yeah, man, I've got to." We've always lived 300 miles apart, which is a good thing for our relationship. But when I had my heart failure, he actually jumped in a new career and headed up here, and actually lives 5 miles away now, and we see each other pretty much every day. Um, Later in basically later in life, we got to start hanging out more when things became more important than money. Careers and things like that start to slow down later in life. And he's always also been a very good fan. He supported every single business I've opened. Um, he always encourages me. He's a teacher, so I kind of look up to him for being able to do that career path. It takes a lot of a person to be able to do that. And then vice versa. He just always is like, man, I can't believe you can pinch a penny out of thin air, and create businesses quickly. And I think he helps keep me on that path, and I help him. We go fishing all the time. We go golfing, and just hang out. He's not the guy, like I would never go in business with him. You don't put that strain on that relationship. Um, so that's, it's important to have those people in your life. I could tell him absolutely anything. He wouldn't judge me. And if he did, he would help correct it for me. I'm sure he's judged me in the past, and I've judged him too, but you tell each other, you're honest about it. And I think it helps you grow as a person to be able to tell another human being that you don't pay, not a counselor or something like that, but some other person, your deepest, darkest secrets. It helps you understand, the ability of trust and vulnerability.
Yeah, man. So you mentioned business a couple times, and you even mentioned this is not a guy I'd necessarily go into business with, but I love him to death. He's a confidant, somebody that he's helped me along the way. I guess because one of the things that you talk about is finding your kick-ass business purpose statement with the
Yeah.
simple value formula and see your business grow. To go
Yeah.
from being homeless to creating these businesses, yes, what he said is accurate. Like, how the heck did you take pennies and create what you've created, man? That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. So now it's a little bit easier because we have our following of people. I call them friendlies. They're people that show up and support everything we do. We're out in the community doing volunteering, and we invite those people to come with us. And we've got a couple hundred people that we see monthly through various activities that we send free cookies to, and just keep them in our pipeline. Then they're they're friendly. They're, I guess, your Facebook friends and people like that. Um, we see about 50,000 of those a week, but we're always doing something to connect with them. Those are the people that make you feel good, and that you feel good helping, but they're not necessarily tight with you, but that group of people, anytime I start up a business and say, I've just started this, they come and support. And I think that's important to build that from the get-go. And I realized this quickly when we opened our first, me and my wife opened our first retail store, and we had a grand opening. And I started off with just a grand opening for our product, and 50 people signed up or whatever. But then we decided to do a fundraiser for a little girl that had cancer and was dying, and we wanted to raise money for the family. And instantly we had thousands of people sign up to help her. But the grand opening was physical location was at our store. And so we had like 610 people show up to that event versus 50 that were scheduled to come. And I think we raised $15,000 in a couple hours, which, when you put meaning behind your business, you put values behind your business, your business will flourish. The byproduct of being out in the community, the byproduct of flaunting your values is success, period. And that's what I learned quickly. So one of the first things I do is come up with that value statement for the business. Every business we start, that's one of the first things I do after I figure out how to make money on it. And I put that up in our Facebook, social media, and our websites. That's the front and center. The three main values that we may use in our business. And honestly, I think that helps the employees stay on track with what you're trying to do. It helps you stay on track. It's like I always use the movie 300. The mantra, they come onto the battlefield and they're banging their shields and they're singing their mantra, and it's an amazing cinema to watch it. It's beautiful. It's amazing, and it gets me pumped up every time I watch it. And that's sort of how I run my businesses too. We're a family, we're strong, we're a tribe. We work hard, but this is what we believe in. And ultimately, you have to, when you're using pennies to open businesses, you really have to have people that you can trust and that will stick with you a long time. And the only way I've ever found is to make them your family, make them tight. And there's actually studies on it. And this is going to sound horrible. One of my main values in life is family, and I use that in companies too. But if an employee feels like they're a part of a family, they will stay longer, work harder, and work for less. And that's just a fact. So I've kind of exploited that within our businesses. I think I'm doing them justice. And a lot of our people, they come in, we know they're not going to be there forever. You're working at a retail location and you're a college kid. So let's, stick around for a year. Let me teach you some things. And we've had doctors move on from us, or people move on and be doctors. I've got a vice president in my bag of communications at some online company, and he's making $500,000 a year. I mean, these are all people that we knew at 18, 19, 20 years old and groomed them into a successful person.
Well, look, man, family is important. Everybody wants to be accepted. Everybody wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And that is what a family is. Look, retention is challenging, and it sucks looking for a job, and it sucks looking for new people. So whether you exploit it, quote unquote, as you said, or you just embrace the philosophy, I think everybody should. I'm all for it. And you see the wristband I'm wearing right now. My three values are right there. You mentioned three though, and I'm curious on this. Why three, brother?
So if for businesses, I use three because it's easy. You can have as many as you want. For my life, I have the Worley way. That's 10 values. And I do use those to run my businesses. But when you're talking about three for a company, it's important to keep it tight. A small amount so that people can understand it. You can pretty much find an avenue within three values to advertise or run your business towards those three values pretty easily. So your managers, your employees, your customers, they can all get behind 1, 2, 3 values. rather than 10 and trying to remember those. I can't even remember mine all the time. I have to pull my list out. And when I came up with the 10 values the Worley way, I actually put a poster on our wall in the house, and the kids, that's how we raised our children, was by those 10 values. And when they got in trouble, they didn't get grounded first. They were taken to the wall, and we, look what you did to your family, and go down that road. And it was a great way to raise them. And I think that's important. Same thing with, everything I do is based on how I raise my children. It's the same way I treat my employees. Love, respect, and find teachable moments that my wisdom can help them with. And it's just easy with 3 values. Now, I've seen companies do a lot more than that. But again, boy, you kind of get lost in the shuffle, lost in the mix of things.
Well, you're talking to a believer, trust me, because one of the companies, I don't know if I've shared this story specific on this podcast. I had a company where we had 6 core values, and I'm on stage and I'm talking about it. People are like, tell us what it is. And I could think of 5.
Yeah.
Brother, I couldn't remember the 6 values. Somebody had to shout it from the crowd. And I was one of the that came up with it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how smart I was, Ron. I added a 7th value that day. So I can't remember the 6th. Let's go ahead and add a 7th on there. It didn't take shortly thereafter that I figured out, hey, dummy, let's come up with 3, because 3 amigos, 3 musketeers, 3 stooges, 3 whatever, the Trinity. 3 is it's repeatable. People can remember it. The other thing you said, this is real interesting. You said the word mantras, and I'm a huge fan of mantras. Tell me what that means maybe in a company setting, maybe in a family setting. Do you verbalize these daily? I'm just curious.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the company, it depends on the employee, but usually within every meeting I may have, or a one-on-one with somebody, I would absolutely make sure to bring up the values and the mantra. I look for clever little ways to teach somebody and have it stick in their head. So really, we had lots of mantras at our retail store that I can't even think of one off the top of my head now, but it's been a few years since I've owned those. But even when we would sell protein, sell protein pill. Oh no, what was it? It was pills paid the bills. So everybody had to sell a protein drink. Yeah, everybody comes in for protein, but you had to add on a pill because the pills had a high margin, and so that would teach them, hey, upsell a little bit with some pills, and everybody needs a multivitamin, so do that. And so there was those little mantras throughout the store. Not only could we advertise on those, because maybe not that one, but others you can advertise. They're cute little slogans that your employees help use. And one of them was P Neon. So to get you to take a multivitamin, everybody was like, yeah, it's P Neon. And ultimately it ended up being a whole thing. And we had people with pictures of their neon pee and stuff. So, but it worked, man. People came in and bought multivitamins. So
here's the other thing. I mean, it's fun. It's funny. I'm laughing about it. I'm trying to do an interview, but I can't. I'm thinking of the times I take my multivitamin. And it's like, that's not healthy. But maybe it is. Maybe it is healthy. You do use an acronym. I'm curious on LLYD. And choose happiness every day. What is this power? What is this acronym, brother? LLYD. I'm in.
Yeah, live like you're dying. So I actually, when I had the heart failure, that was the second time I died in my life, and but the first time that it mattered. And when I was told I only had 5 years to live maximum, I decided to go out and start seeing people that I hadn't seen in a while. Make sure I said goodbye. I did a farewell tour when I was healthy enough to get out of the house, and literally every time I saw someone, my brother, my uncles, my aunts, my mother, friends I hadn't seen in years, the goodbye was just insane. It was sad. It was, we were crying. Every single one of us were crying on the departure. And my mom said, son, none of us know if we're going to be back and see each other. None of us know if we're going to live tomorrow. And she was explaining she's 65 and, she could go at any time now. She's considered old, even though she looks like she's 40. and that stuck in my head that, I got to live every day that way. And I've heard it a million times. It's so cliche, live every day like it's your last. But it doesn't mean anything when you think you have many days to come. It means a lot more when you might not actually have tomorrow. And so I basically just did every single thing I've wanted to do since I died that day. Everything. If it comes in my head, I'm going to do it. My kids call it my new addictions. Every month, I have a new addiction. I call them my passions. These are things I've always wanted to do and never did. So, if I want to go fishing today, I'm going to go fishing today. And if I have work, I'm not going to mess with people's schedules and whatnot. But I've formulated my life in the last 5 years to have a lot of professionals helping me so that I can go fishing when I want to. Or live in a resort where I'm at now, where I can go fishing out my back door, and golfing the same day. Those are the things that matter to me. It's time, it's moments, and I think everybody, if we all understood that the time is more important than any amount of money, all of a sudden money just doesn't matter anymore. And I know it's easy for I know there's people out there saying, yeah, it's easy to say when you're a millionaire, but I didn't become a millionaire by any normal, I just worked my butt off and it killed me. And thank God it did, because now I'm using that money to live, a nice life with less headache. But at the same token, I'm watching my own wife live the same life I did. She's overworking, stressing too much. And I think that's the challenge with everybody. We all overwork, and we all stress way too much. And I think if we can just dial it back a little bit, enjoy the time a little bit more, we'll all live a little bit longer. I think heart disease is up. I think, what did they say? It's up 20% more, and it was already killing, 60, 70,000 people a year. And it's just the stress and the way we eat, and you know, that's we got to get in that. That's not cool, man. I was 43 and had heart failure, and I was in the shape of my life, and it still happened to me. So, I'm relaxed now, man.
Well, you answered one of my questions, which is how old were you when you had heart failure? And so 5 years to live, I guess they told you at that time.
Yeah.
How old are you now, brother? And how you feeling now?
Yeah. So in August, it becomes the 5 years. But what they, doctors being doctors, and I think we need them. They saved my life. Immediately I needed doctors' help, but they're kind of stuck in their data. And I reached out to a holistic doctor about 2.5 years into it. And I literally went to the doctor, the regular heart doctor. He said, yeah, you're going to need a heart transplant within a couple of years. And then that's when they start the timer. Your heart only lasts 10 years at that point. So again, yeah, I'm going to get a little extra years than 5, but I'm not going to have more than 10 or 15. That still makes me a young man when I die. So I reached out to this guy, and he put me on a cleanse, got rid of the metals in my blood and all the impurities. And I did this for 2 weeks, and it was god awful, the most horrible thing I've ever been through. And he improved my heart condition by 65% in 2 weeks. I went back to my heart doctor, and he was like, I've actually had normal numbers for a man my age in a lot of areas. And now I'm only 4 points from a normal heart. So normal heart is 50 to 65 injection fraction rate. Mine's at 46. So I feel amazing. I feel like I'm going to live. I've kind of loosened up on the whole, this might be the last moment I see you kind of thing, and started enjoying looking at the future a little bit more. And so, that's all good. But it also changed my lifestyle, my wife's lifestyle. We eat a little different, stress a little different. She stresses out. I don't anymore, but that's how I'm going to stay alive. So yeah, it's all good now, man. I'd like to say I'm going to have a normal life, but we'll see.
Well, obviously, no one knows. Look, I get hit by a bus on the way to my son's game tonight. It's just the way it goes. So no one does know. And even for doctors to say this is how long, I think it's one of the dumbest things they do. I don't know why they do that,
Yeah,
other than to maybe scare the shit out of you to say, look, real life changes need to happen. And if that's
right.
why, cool, man, I can do that all day long. Um, I'm just so with the heart disease, with the heart failure, was that more because of stress or was that due to some of the behaviors as a young man, the drinking and the drugs? So I guess I assumed it was one thing and maybe I was totally wrong. So what would you attribute that to?
Yeah, so the doctors they told me there's absolutely no data that supports that 15 years later you can have issues with your heart from cocaine use. And then I've had, other doctors say, yeah, you actually kill cells off by using cocaine and it can damage the heart. It's much like having a knee injury when you're in high school from football, but it doesn't affect you until you're like 40 years old and all of a sudden you need knee surgery. Same thing happens with any part in our body, and the heart is a muscle. So, actually, in my recovery of the heart, is I'm treating it much like I did as a bodybuilder, trying to build muscle, and we're building the heart back up just like that. So, yes, the answer is the doctors won't tell me because they don't have data. My thought is yes, it started out that way. The massive amount of stress that I was under at the time probably didn't help. Your body releases something called cortisol, and that is a hormone dump. And when that happens, it damages your heart as well. And so, under stressful environments to my body and to my mind, of course, that could be one thing. The other thing is that I'm a man of addictions and I get addicted to healthy things. And unfortunately, I was also addicted to something that wasn't healthy at the time, and that was energy drinks. And I was drinking 6 large monster drinks a day. They were free because I got them through my store. So I would just drink them willy nilly, didn't think anything of it. But that's equivalent of 18 energy drinks a day. And that absolutely, I know that had something to do with it too. That's might as well be using cocaine at that point. So yeah,
Wow, man. And just because everyone could learn some things about their heart, because as you said, the numbers are way too high, especially in modern medicine, for this to be such a prevalent part of our society. What is one of the most surprising things, and what are some of the things people can do that have helped you really? You mentioned a cleanse, not sure what kind of cleanse, but what are some of the most surprising things that people can do to really improve their health and not have these challenges? You said stress less. Cool, I can buy into that. But what are some other things that you found along the way leading to a healthier life?
yeah, man. So sleep was a huge thing. It with all those businesses, I was sleeping, 3, 4, or 5 hours a night, and eventually that catches up with you, and you'd have one zonk day. But I think sleep is part of recovery, and that's a huge, huge, huge thing for people to take on. Go ahead and get 6 hours minimum as an adult is what we need. Um, and really the supplementation that people talk about, but they think a lot of negative people, I call them, they don't believe in it. Your fish oils, your heart healthy products, your fish oils, omegas 1, 2, 3, omega 6 is a good one too. Vitamin D. These kind of supplements are things that our body is deficient on just by the fact that we don't have the right foods anymore. We don't eat a lot of fish anymore. Um, and the sun is not always prevalent in your state. If you're in Alaska, you don't have a lot of sun. And sun actually, so the first thing they put me on when I had my heart thing was magnesium, and D3, and a couple other little guys, iron, because those are the things that help the heart grow. Now, huge, like once if you want to keep your heart really healthy, taurine, CoQ10, and oh my gosh, the third one. But I'm not going to think of it. But CoQ10 and taurine, and you can look this up online. It'll tell you that those are the two key ingredients. One of the two key ingredients of creating muscle, and your heart's a muscle. And in order to keep that thing pumping right, you really got to do it. And the philosophy is, especially behind the heart, is your cells die and reproduce. But when you have an unhealthy heart, your cells die in the heart, but they don't reproduce. So you got to get your body reproducing cells at a molecular level. And that's what you're doing by taking these extra supplements that our food can't give us.
Sounds like kind of went to school, brother. Almost get a PhD with the heart on all this. I do want to get back to business for a moment, because one of the things that you've done so successfully through all of these trials and tribulations is you've succeeded in business. And one of the things you talk about is the 5 type of friends you need for a rich life and a profitable business. I'm all in, brother. I love having profitable business, and I love having a rich life. So tell me.
Yeah. So we got those ride or die friends we talked about, and we got friendlies that we talked about. We got your business friends and your spiritual friends. And that can be 2-parter. It can be spiritual. Mine is a values coach. It's not a pastor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm doing what you were talking about earlier. So we have, so let's talk about those real quick. We got the ride or dies. Those are the guys that are, life friends, best friends. Those guys, tell them anything you want. You got your friendlies. To me, that's my customer base. We all know people that we say hi to in passing, but we don't really know them. I thought being a friend was getting to know all of them and putting time into all of them. It's not possible, and we become an awful friend because you get tired of being a friend too, and giving so much of yourself to other people. I've learned to be a little bit more selfish and give back to myself as well, and that makes me a better friend to the people that matter. And my friendlies now, those are really cool people too, because when you have a party, that's who comes. And when I'm selling a product or I have a new business, those are the people that come and support. And yeah, they kind of look up to you a little bit. But those are also the people that ask to take me to coffee, and I go have coffee with them and get to know them a little bit. So, it's sparingly, but those are many and plentiful. I think the most important one out of all of the types of friends that we have is your spiritual friend. Not to be confused with your ride or die partner. These are mine is Jim Hensel. I call him my man coach. Basically, he helps me use my own values to relate to the issue I might be having in the day. I'm not going to go to him and talk probably specifically, but if I'm having a problem with my wife, I may tell him, "Hey, man, this is what I'm going through," and then he'll explain to me what it means to be a good husband again. And he's been through some things, so he's got kids and that have grown up, and he's used his values to raise them, and so sometimes we share that. And actually, him and I are getting ready to go into business together. He's got the Mayhem Mindset, which is all about values, and we're going to figure out how to help other businesses using his Mayhem Mindset values. Long story there, but anyways, it's going to help us both out, and that comes from years. I think we're working on 10 years of friendship now, and really just keeping it. I call him, it's like arm length distance, not too tight that he knows my deepest, darkest thoughts, but tight enough that he knows me pretty darn well, and I know him pretty darn well. And so if he's acting up, I'll change that.
Well, it sounds like, man, he's really put you on a great path. I mean, he's certainly helped you along the way. You talk warm about him, and he sounds like a pretty amazing dude. I got to ask you about the lion. I'm looking at you, and there's a big ass lion behind you. You don't just put that up. You put some thought into this. So what does that symbolize something for you, brother?
Yeah, man. And so I always want to be a lion, not a sheep. And I want to try and lead. And for me, leading, I used to think of a leader as somebody who purposely leads. It's not. A lion doesn't worry about who's following him. A lion does his own thing and people follow him. And the second part of that is that I'm always taking care of my pride. And which it's a cliche. So the pride, which means family in the kingdom of lions or whatever. So I'm always taking care of my family, and my family consists of blood relatives, but also other people that are not blood that are in my family, which we all have. We talked about that earlier. So I'm always taking care of my pride. I'm the leader of my pride, but I'm also taking care of my own pride too, my personal pride. I'm mindful of my pride because I can spin out of control. And so I try to remain humble and pride and mindful of where I'm at. I do want to be proud of myself, but I don't want to be overly proud and out there, so for instance, I bought I bought a GTR Nismo last year. Thought I needed this car, had to buy this car. My wife begged me not to buy the car. It caused a huge fight. And now the car sits in my garage because I can't drive it in the winter. And and really I'm starting to think, well, what I think I should sell this car, because really, what does it represent? Well, I'm out there driving it. People give me the thumbs up. I feel really cool in it. And that's really all it represents. Otherwise, it's a death trap. And maybe that's not who I am. And it was cool to show off for a couple of months, but it's probably time to sell the car.
That's awesome. Well, the other thing about a lion, bro, they sleep a lot. So, hey, you're embracing, those are some, and take this the right way. When they need to be monsters, they can be, but they sleep, dude. I don't know if you know this about lions. These dudes chill. They got that down. So
yeah, for real.
What should I have asked you? I just didn't know enough to ask. And you're like, man, James, I got to leave this with the audience before we end this interview.
Yeah, man, you really asked a lot, man. And actually totally different too, by the way. So great. Thank you so much for keeping us down a whole different, what I'm used to talking about. But, I think people need to understand that our past does not define us. Who we are is what our values are. And that's what defines us. Mistakes happen. I don't care if you've killed somebody, you can recover from that. We do some stupid things in our lives. I still do stupid things in my life. There's still days that I have to make an apology a lot. There's days that I have to live down. There's things that I do today that I'll have to live down, and it'll take months to get over from the damage I've caused. That I'm just human. And I think we all need to understand that it's not a perfect life. Those people we see on TV that run businesses and live their lives, and these millionaires we see and the celebrities and all that, that's not real. Most of us, we don't have publicists. We have real lives, and we're going to need to make an apology and move on from it. Don't let it define you and ruin the rest of your life.
It's awesome, man. And obviously you've been able to help a lot of people because you've been able to give yourself some grace, forgive yourself for any transgressions that you did cause, and give back to the world, man. I love it. So how can our listeners connect with you online, brother?
Yeah, man. So if everything is on ronworley.com. That's my website, my books there, my podcast, and my emails, phone number, all that's on there. Anybody can email me. That's usually the best way. I'll talk to them. Absolutely free, man. I don't charge for helping people at all. And I'll give any advice I can. I don't really, hey, I always say I'm just an idiot that got lucky and worked my ass off, because hard work always beats talent. And I've always heard that, and I think it's true. So, but I'm here to help.
Well, guys, check it out. He's got an incredible story. I mean, we didn't even hardly lift the kimono on some of the things that he's done in his life. But brother, I just, I appreciate you coming on today and relating to people, because again, to be that vulnerable, say, these are my mistakes, I own them. I think it's refreshing, bro. So I just appreciate the way you show up.
Thanks so much. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
Truly my pleasure, my brother. You guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Truly. I mean, when you look at his bio just alone, I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to structure all these questions. He has lived a very fulfilling life, a crazy life. And he's got stories. So go check him out for sure. The other thing I'd like you to check out on some of these things, so we don't skin our knees maybe as much. I write a blog every single week. It's on letsgowin.com. Go check it out, you guys. These are written for you so we can talk about some of these things so we don't make the same mistakes. Anyway, until next time, you guys continue to transcend in life. We'll talk to you then. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.